asked my audience to send in their most embarrassing stories to the email georgeiconfess@gmail.com, which you can do now, by the way. And you might be in the next one of these videos. But do you know what would be really, really embarrassing? More embarrassing than anything in any of these emails. If you didn't pick up this little guy, huh? Imagine not picking up this little guy. He's only available for a very limited time. So yeah, these are available now on Makeshift. The link will be in the description. They're only available for a very limited amount of time and they will not be reproduced after. If you want like a little me in your home, be sure to click the link and buy it. Do it or I will be very disappointed. Oh, also, needless to say, when you email in, you will be anonymous. I will not show your name, don't worry. I was sat on a train minding my own business when I felt something brush against me. I saw the people behind me had stood up and were reaching up to the baggage storage, so I returned to minding my business, assuming they brushed against me. Anyway, it happened again. Something touched my head, so I looked at the bloke who said sorry and looked terribly embarrassed. With my headphones still blaring, I smiled and turned away. Then they tapped me and pointed to the luggage rack. I reached to take my headphones off, and that's when I felt it. Slime. Turns out it was a family, and the little girl had put a jar of slime in their bag, which had, unfortunately for me, ruptured directly above. What is it with kids and slime? Why do they love slime so much? The whole time I had been getting the world's slowest Nickelodeon / Dick and Dom type gungeon, and I was sat there oblivious. Anyway, they apologized very, very sincerely many times and looked mortified. The little girl cried, but from what she said, it was more about the loss of the slime than the gunging of a stranger. Yeah, that is quite embarrassing to be sat on a train with slime in your hair. Everyone's just gonna think you're like a goo goo gaga baby who watches slime videos on YouTube. Okay, so the subject line of this one is the time I bust a nut on a train. All right. Hi, George. Me and my friends all support Peterborough United. I'm so sorry. And a few seasons ago, we all went to Charlton away on the train. This incident occurred on the way home from London. We had won the game 1-0, so we were all pretty happy getting on the train. After about 20 minutes, I for some felt the urge to bust a nut. I think you meant to put for some reason, but anyway. So instead of waiting until I arrived home, I decided I'd do it in the train toilet. It turns out I hadn't locked the door properly, and if you aren't aware, the doors on trains are absolutely massive. So there I was busting a nut until some middle-aged man opened the door to reveal me busting a nut to the entire carriage. The man's eyes widened and he quickly closed the... Yeah, because you're wanking on a train. Who wanks on trains? You're a deviant. You need help. I had never felt so embarrassed in my life. Good. That's how you're supposed to feel when you get caught wanking on a train. I waited a few stops before leaving the bathroom in the hope that this man and everyone else in the carriage had left. My stop was the last one, but of course, when I re-emerged from the bathroom, he was still there, and he stared at me as I quickly walked off to my friends. My friends asked me what took me so long, and I just sat there in complete silence. Yeah, I hope you didn't tell your friends, because they would never let you forget that. Well, go on, George. When I was 16, I'm 23 now, I had my first job working in a pharmacy. It was shit, as you can expect, since the British public are actually denser than concrete. Anyway, there was a really busy weekend, and I was stuck on tills dealing with everything. A lady came to my till, and I, of course, offered her my help. I helped her with her prescription, and she bought some other things too. As I was packing her things away in a bag, she asked if there was anything else she had to do in regards to her prescription. I was incredibly flustered as the queue was out the door. At this point, I just wanted to move on to the next customer. I was going to say no, that's everything, or now you're good, but during my panic, I accidentally said, don't worry, you're everything. And this woman just looked at me like I was a fucking idiot. I have thought about this encounter every day since it happened, and it makes me want to remove my skin from it. No, that's not. It compared to the last one where a guy was quite having a wank on a train, I think you're okay. My teacher was being a twat, so I flipped over a table and it kind of went across the room, so the teacher asked me to leave the class, and I talked with him about it. After about 10 minutes, I just left. The next day, I came back and got into a fight with someone. Don't know how I'm not expelled, to be honest. Does this really count as an embarrassing story? I mean, you are quite an embarrassing person, I guess, but like, this is just that kid. Everyone had one of these kids at school that would just try and fight the teacher and everyone else. Hi, George. This actually pains me typing this, but I was in work last week, won't say where, but it's a clothes shop, and a lot of people were waiting for the changing room. This person kept telling me nobody was in number 6. The doors had no gaps on the bottom or top, so I couldn't see, and they were getting annoyed at me because they didn't want to wait, so I knocked and knocked, and I knocked probably about 6 or 7 times while also shouting hello to see if anyone was in there. I got no response, so I went and got the key to open it. You can't open the doors without one, and opened it. Tell me why I was faced with boobs in my face. I'm literally mortified. She slammed the door in my face. To make it worse, I was also on the till, so I had to serve her. I don't know. I mean, that's not really your fault. You knocked on it like 6 or 7 times. She had the perfect opportunity to respond to you. That's not your fault. It's embarrassing, but that's not your fault. Don't beat yourself up about it. You weren't in the wrong. Basically, I used to go to a boat with my mum and her at the time boyfriend on the canal. When this happened, I was about 10. I was in my sleeping bag asleep, but I was awoken by the boat violently rocking. I looked up and saw them going at it. I sat there in horror, just looking at my mother on top of him, saying that she needed exercise. I was absolutely mortified and did not sleep for the rest of the night. I would not sleep for the rest of my life. After this happened, the next night, the same thing happened again. I was awoken by the boat rocking. I sat there staring at the ceiling, pissed off because I was having a good sleep, and decided to scream at them to stop it. After I screamed, they both went silent, and my mum went silent for 5 minutes before asking if I wanted my Kindle. I took it and again did not sleep that night. So for a bit of context, when I was younger, 13/14, I had a really bad fear of lifts for some reason. It was so bad that whenever I stepped inside one, a paralyzing fear would chain me to the spot, and I would be left awkwardly staring back at everyone in the lift. One day, my dad told me to grab some papers or something from his office, so I decided to take my friend with me. On the way up, he managed to force me into the lift, and we got the papers no problem. But on the way down, I was not having it, and somehow managed him to climb down the stairs with me from the 50th floor of the building. On the way down, I felt the urge to shit myself. Rewind. How on earth did you convince someone to go down 50 floors with you? Anyway, I felt the urge to shit myself really badly. I managed to hold it in for halfway down, but then it all slowly came out, and I was left there standing in a huge pool of shit. I mean, if that was me, like, when I got that urge, I'd probably just go in the lift. I'd be like, you know, my urge to shit is greater than my fear of lifts. I will go in the lift. My friend slipped on it and tried to grab something for support and ended up pushing me down the stairs. So what he tried to do was get me to a toilet, and he opened the nearest door, ignoring the huge bolded emergency exit sign. This triggered a little mini alarm in some security office somewhere, and I guess what they had to deal with was a huge stinky liquid oozing all over the stairs we had already left by then. That is disgraceful. Hello, George. This is a very embarrassing story, and it sort of reminds me of that one scene in The In-Betweeners. You will know which scene after you read this. I think I already know the scene, considering that the subject line of this is my school hates me because they think I'm ableist. So last year in the Easter, we had some people coming to our school for our assembly. At the time, I had no idea it was for special needs awareness, and that a little boy who was coming in was severely disabled, and he was in a wheelchair. About 10 minutes before the assembly, I asked my teacher if I could use the toilets. I tried the boys' toilets, but they were locked, so I went into the disabled ones. You can see where this is going. Yes, I can. I went to the disabled toilets and pulled the handle down, trying to make my way in, but someone was inside. I was bursting for a piss, so I banged on the door, holding my crotch, and shouted, "Hurry up, you!" I'm not sure I'm allowed to say that word, but it begins with M and rhymes with tongue. I can't hold it any longer. Then I hear the door being unlocked, and my heart sinks as I see a little... What did you expect when you banged on the disabled toilet door? As I see a little disabled boy sat in his wheelchair, looking as if he is going to cry, and his care worker stood in front of me, looking angry. The man was furious, and he shouted at me, and a group of girls walked past and heard everything. Then in the assembly, they made a speech about how using discriminatory words towards people who are disabled is ableist, and at the end, the girls who had heard told everybody that I was ableist, and the little boy agreed. So now everyone in my school thinks I bully little disabled boys, and I only have 2 friends, my cousin and the dinner lady. How can I fix this, George? I'm sorry, that is so funny. I empathise with you, right? But I don't know what you expected when you banged on a disabled toilet's door and proceeded to say the word that rhymes with tongue. I don't know what you expected. I don't know how you can fix this, Matt. I'm sorry. I tell you what, you can show this little clip of this video to your friends and the school, or actually no, not your friends. You only got 2 of them, your cousin and the dinner lady. You can show this to people at your school, and I think this is very heartfelt, and it shows remorse, sort of. Hi, George. When I was 14, my dad would work night shifts, so my mum would sometimes invite her friends around for dinner and drinks. One night she had brought someone over, and we're in the living room. I needed a glass of water, but you had to walk through the living room to get to the kitchen in our house. I walked in to find my mum being railroaded by a man on the sofa. She had been having an affair. Why would she do that when you're in the house? She's not very subtle, is she? She had been having an affair behind my dad's back. They froze, and I just decided to proceed with getting a drink instead of just leaving. I then bolted back to my room. Time went on, my parents split up, and I was introduced to this man who I walked in on shagging my mum as my new his stepdad. They've been married 12 years and we haven't spoken about this incident to this day. Traumatized. One time I went to Fort Park and by the end of the day I was feeling extremely tired and dizzy after all the rides. My dad insisted that we went on Nemesis one more time before we left. I felt awful whilst on the ride. And as it came into the station, I was sick everywhere and everyone waiting to get on was watching. I had to walk to the toilets with cheesy sick all over my shorts. And when I came out, I looked over at Nemesis and the screen said it was closed and everyone was leaving the queue. This was about an hour before Fort Park closed and my dad went and asked why it had closed and they said some kid was sick all over the ride. And there was no point reopening it since it was taking so long to clean up. But that is so embarrassing. I feel bad for the the queues at Fort Park are absurd. The queue for Nemesis is probably about an hour. I feel so bad for the poor bastards that were right at the front and then they had to leave because you were sick all over the ride. Hey George, so for background, I do a lot of theatre. I met my ex while doing a show last September and we started going out, blah, blah, blah. He was a full-blown theatre kid who sang a lot all the time. Skip to our first time. Background, I was not a virgin. He was, so this was literally his first time. And we had Rapunzel on in the background because his family were downstairs and we didn't want them to hear. He started singing Mother Knows Best full theatre belt midway through and I didn't break up with him. In fact, he continued to do this every time we had sex until he broke up with me in March. Yeah, embarrassing. You know what the most embarrassing part about that is? He broke up with you. This one has the subject, accidentally showed my mate a video of me wanking. Oh, all right. So we were walking back from the shops and I was showing him some pictures of the weed I had earlier in the day. You smoke weed. You smoke weed, wow, it's so sick. I look at these pictures of the weed, don't I look sick? Don't I look sick? That gives me the same vibes as someone like letting you smell weed and going, oh, yeah, doesn't that smell great? No, it just smells like weed, man. What do you mean? It's the same when people show you pictures like, oh, don't I look sick? It looks like weed. It like to a normal person, it looks like all weed looks the same. But I was scrolling through My Eyes Only on Snapchat. My friend took the phone and carried on scrolling, eventually ending up on a video of me having a wank. I'm devastated and extremely embarrassed. Please help me, Joe. Why do you have that on your phone? Why do you have that on your phone? Especially like on a social media app. Like, bro, that gets hacked, you are done. Get rid of that. During the 2020 Euros, me and my mates went to the local pub to watch England versus Ukraine. We won the match and in celebration got absolutely pissed out our heads. By 8 p.m, we decided to head home to mine to join in on a family party that was going on. We left the pub and there was this bald dwarf and I must have been convinced it was someone famous. Me being very excited about this, I ran to him and shouted Danny DeVito repeatedly. My mates knew it weren't him and started recording me. I asked him to sign my England shirt from 1996, which my dad passed down to me. Earlier that day, my mate bought a Sharpie for a uni project and he gave me the pen and this man ran with it and signed right above the Umbro logo. I hate the smell of Sharpie again. I started gagging and I had sick in my mouth. Did you get him to sign? What? If you don't like Sharpie. Anyway, me trying to hold it down and wait until he stopped signing the shirt, but I couldn't hold it anymore and I threw up all over him. It was running down his forehead. Then my mate sent the video around Snapchat and my mum got a hold. What is the video? I really want to see this video. Then my mate sent the video around Snapchat and my mum got a hold of it and she didn't speak to me for 3 weeks. It makes my skin crawl every night. If anyone who recognizes this, I deeply apologize. Hi, George. When I was in year 10, I volunteered to help some guests in an assembly that they were doing for our school. Little did I know I'd be signing up for being Paddy McGuinness in some B-Tech version of Take Me Out in the middle of the assembly, which would be performed for every single year group set. Who thought this would be a good idea? I decided I'm not a pussy, so I agreed to it. I also did it in a cowboy hat, but that's not the worst bit. We did the show for the year 7s and they were great and clapped at everything. When we performed for the year 9s, I went to introduce the single ladies and as they walked out, it was dead silence. Not even the teachers clapped. I was stood in the middle of the stage in a cowboy hat, absolutely baffled. For some reason, I decided to clap violently and called them a dead crowd so they would clap along. This half worked. Later in the show, there was some pickup line section and because I was already nervous, when one of the girls said their pickup line, I yelled bazinga and zing at the audience. I am still utterly mortified and after all the performances, I was known as the girl in the cowboy hat and people would ask me if they could be in the next Take Me Out. At least I'm not, but yeah, that's not that embarrassing. You're just playing along. It's a bit of fun, Hello, George. So one day in year 9, me and my biology classmates went to the zoo to look at animals and learn about evolution. On the bus, I unknowingly drank about 1 litre of water with 3 laxatives in it because my mate thought it would be funny. When the bus parked at the zoo, my mate ran off the bus to go to the toilet and left his bag. Me thinking I'll play a prank on him, pulled down my pants and went to fight into the bag. I ended up shitting violently all throughout his bag, drenching all his books and laptop in liquid shit. I was shocked and quickly zipped it back up, hoping he wouldn't notice. He came back and felt the very obvious weight difference and smell, and I sat there while he discovered a heapy pile of shit in his bag and a brown stain on my shirt from trying to clean the bag. He moved schools a few months later because everyone called him Poop Pack Larry. That's just a shit name, no pun intended. And I haven't seen or talked to him in 4 years. During the summer, my parents left me at my grandparents' house. In the evening, I was way too scared to go to the bathroom, so I would pull the carpet, piss, then put it back. I did this for the entire summer. One time, my grandmother came into my room and she smelt it, and I said that my cousin had pissed herself. She still doesn't know what I did. Surely they have to change the floorboards if you keep doing that. That's fucking what do you mean you're too scared to go to the bathroom? Disgusting. Hi, George. Hope you're well. This story happened to me when I was 13 and me and my younger sister went to this sports club where there were both guys and girls of various ages. One of them was this girl who was about 2 years older than me. We'll call her Emily. I had a huge crush on Emily, and eventually my big brain, early teen self decided the best way to tell her this was to write a fucking letter to her, handmade envelope and all, and sneak it into her backpack while she wasn't looking. By the way, no idea why we had one conjoined changing room. That's really weird now that I think about it. But anyway, I don't know what I was expecting, but Emily didn't respond to my letter in any way. The logical thing to do in the scenario was obviously just not do anything else, leave her alone and move on. But that's not what I did. Oh, no. I slipped another envelope into her backpack about a month later, this one having a full-on poem about my undying 13-year-old love for her. No joke, I wrote a total of 10 letters to Emily, at least 3 more poems, including getting more and more angry and bitter and daring not to respond to me and return my affections or whatever. What she did so was begin to completely ignore my existence. She would say hello to my sister and ignore me completely every time she was probably fucking you wrote her poems. You sent her 10 letters. She was probably terrified of you. At the time, I thought somehow that she was in the wrong for this and that she just didn't appreciate how nice I was being. Oh, you're such a nice guy, man. You're so nice. Why do the ladies not like you? She also went to the same school as me, so I saw her almost every day and it filled me with incel rage. This does have a sort of happy ending though. 3 years later, after I realized how stupid, creepy, and embarrassing what I had been doing was, I reached out to Emily and apologized for my weird past behavior, which she accepted, and we were good friends for a few years until she left the school. Well, that's good. You made amends. It is still very embarrassing though. That would haunt me. I was really clumsy as a kid, so constantly broke phones and often had to have people's old phones. One time I had broken my phone, so I had to borrow my mum's phone, which was not ideal as it was a bit shitty and still connected to her Google account. One time I was scrolling through the pictures, as there weren't many, and found nude photos of my mum's boyfriend that she had taken as a joke with him. I tried to delete these photos but couldn't due to them being connected to an account and stored in Google Photos. I was distraught and cried over finding this as I couldn't get these photos off this phone and felt deeply ashamed having to take the phone to school every day. I was terrified so I would find them. Eventually I managed to delete them, but the image still lingers in my mind from time to time. Nobody knows about this and I will never tell anyone publicly what you've told me. So me and my nan were having a movie night on Sunday. Nothing out of the usual, but how we watch movies is the TV is connected to my phone. Now, while we were halfway through The Greatest Showman, I got a boner. So I said to Nan that the phone died so I could have a wank in the toilet, but my kink is feet. Oh God, I thought I'd have a wank and then go to bed, but the phone was still connected to the TV, so my nan was watching some ASMR feet play. I walk out and see the TV. Me and my nan have not spoken about this because she's dead. Did she die from shock from the ASMR feet play? Hello, this story is a bit gross. I just started seeing my boyfriend at the time and we just got back from a night out. We were really hungry, so we ordered a kebab. After we finished eating, we started making out and I started going down on him. I have a sensitive gag reflex. I knew this, but when I choked, I threw up the kebab. I threw up on his lip, but worse for worse, sucked it back in and he never found out about it. There is my shame. Before sitting my GCSE Maths Paper 2 exam, I thought it'd be funny to remove the protractor from a guy's pencil case. This guy looked especially nervous and it looked like he was almost on the verge of tears. I took it out when he went to the loo about 5 minutes before the exam and he didn't realise. What's pretty crazy is the poor guy was sitting one forward and to the left of me in the exam hall, so I had a pretty clear view of him and he was still completely oblivious to the missing protractor. Subsequently, by chance, there was a 12-mark question completely relying on the protractor. I realised whilst doing this question that the boy whose protractor I had stolen had his hand up for one of the invigilators, and I guessed he was asking for a protractor. I saw the invigilators shake their head as they're not allowed to lend stationery to candidates in the exam room. I sat watching with regret with his protractor in my hand, seeing a distraught guy with his head on his desk. That's so mean, man. Tell you what, invigilators are dickheads, aren't they? Invigilators were some of the biggest dickheads. Why can't they just lend stationery? It doesn't give them an unfair advantage. I, 21 male, met a foreign girl while on a night out. She, also 21, called me often to hang out and smoke. After about 2 months, she kissed me and asked if I wanted to fuck. Shortly after, she explained she's married to a guy in the army. why would you be married at 21? But anyway, I know it's wrong, but I kept seeing her and sleeping with her. While she was home, she insisted that we use the car to do the deed. One day when I came to see her, I saw her and her mother and father-in-law working on the engine or something. I did a quick 180 and went back home. I think the embarrassing part is I think I love her, even though it's clear it isn't going to work out with me and her. Oh, and she has to be married to him for another 2 years before she can legally live here. So I can't imagine I'm going to marry her. This all started in about March. Yeah, maybe break it off, mate. Maybe just break it off. Nutted so hard I passed out and had to go to hospital. When I was 13, I had a routine of doing the deed in the bathroom right before getting in the shower. One night after about a week of abstaining from this habit, I decided to give in to my compulsions. As I finished, I got up a little fast. This combined with the fact I have pretty low iron levels caused me to pass out and it hit my head on the corner of the shower. My mum heard and rushed in only to find me covered in spunk and leaking blood from my head. We haven't mentioned it since. This is absolutely humiliating and shows how lonely I am. I'm a female. Was sitting in my new room in a shared flat. I live with my brother's slightly older friends. Weird. Why do you live with your brother's slightly? Anyway, the one that's kind of hot came in and we talked. He ended up sitting/laying on the bed. We chatted for a bit and he left. After he left, I leaned over and sniffed where he had laid to see if it smelled like him. It did, and I rode the pheromonal high for a bit. I got laid soon after. Thank God. That's just really sad. This is more traumatic than embarrassing, but a confession nonetheless. This is about his dad, all right? This is him and his dad. In the car together, he hands me his phone to play my music on speaker, and I guess he didn't realize that search history exists or he doesn't care, but I kept on seeing man sinks in mud on YouTube search history. I thought it was weird and didn't think much of it until one day another woman texted him while I was playing my music asking him to take her to a swampy place and smear mud on her tits. When I found out my father has a mud king and he doesn't know I know about it. We also watch you together, so if this does make it into the video, then hi dad, I hope you're not watching this together. That would be a really awful way of him finding out that you know this. Right, I'm gonna leave it there for today's video. I hope you did enjoy. Again, if you want to be in the next video, then just email the email here. It's totally anonymous, everything like that. Also pick up one of these little guys, because why not? They need a home. But yeah, I'll see you in a bit. Bye. Yeah.